In this short video, I'm going to give you 4 tips that will help you make the most of a reference checking phone call. After you interview candidates for a job and narrow down your selection, you want to take the right steps to hiring the right employee, and this includes completing background checks. Now, remembering these 4 tips that I'm going to give you will help you confirm whether or not a particular person is a good fit for your organization. Tip number 1. When doing reference checks, what I want you to do is ask the right questions. Now, there are specific questions you should ask when reference checking. These include things like what type of business organization did the candidate previously work for? What were their responsibilities? What were their reasons for leaving? Also, what were their strengths and greatest achievements? What were their weaknesses? Do you think the individual is a suitable candidate for the job we're hiring them for? What would you do if they had an opportunity to be rehired by your organization? Would you take them back? Do you have any additional comments that you'd like to share with us about this employee? This is a basic list of topics you should cover when doing background checks. Make sure to explore any opportunity the former employer provides to ask further detailed questions. Now, you don't necessarily have to stick to only these questions. Rather, try to take every opportunity to learn what the reference has to say about your candidate. Be sure to pause and allow time for the reference to expand on their answers. Don't rush through the reference checking questions. If you allow the reference to take their time answering, you will gain more insights during the background checking process. Tip number 2. What I want you to do is ask your reference checking questions, thinking about how the reference describes the candidate in their previous position, and compare it to how the candidate will fit into your organization. It's important to remember that your position may not be identical to previous positions the employee filled. Bearing this in mind, listen to the previous employer's opinion, remembering to note the differences between the jobs. Listen to what they're saying, evaluating their comments, and making comparisons to what the employee will actually be doing in their new position. For example, perhaps the reference said the candidate was excellent with computers, but not so good at dealing with the public, and they also prefer to work alone rather than in a team environment. If you're hiring the candidate for a position that requires strong computer skills and does not require them to deal with the public, then use the remainder of the phone call to concentrate and explore their strengths with computers. Don't focus on the weaknesses with people, because that's not relevant to your position. Tip number 3. When doing reference checks, it's important to listen to what's being said by the reference, but equally important to listen to what they're not saying. Often previous employers will be hesitant to share negative comments during the reference check, and they don't want to say things bad about their previous employee. So it's important to listen carefully to the answers they give. If the reference answers are general and not very positive, or if they're neutral, then this could indicate that the employee's performance was mediocre in their previous job. Preface questions like, what were the individual's weaknesses? With words like, everyone has weaknesses, so can you tell me some weaknesses about the previous employee? This will help to put the past employer at ease, because they're reminded that since everyone has weaknesses, it's okay to mention a few that their previous employee had. Tip number 4. Consider when doing reference checks. I want you to evaluate how the reference describes the task the candidate was responsible for and their accomplishments and weaknesses. Then compare this to what the candidate says about themselves. This will give you an idea of your potential employee's personality, honesty, and attitude. Going back to our example, perhaps the candidate said they're excellent at dealing with people and at using computers, and one day hopes to be a manager for you. This person may have unrealistic goals and an inflated sense of self-worth. However, if they said they're excellent at computers and wish to find a new job where they can use and develop their strengths, well, this comment is more than realistic and in tune with the comments the reference made about their employee. In short, the questions you ask in a reference check are important, but equally important are the subtle comments that the former employer makes and the comparisons you can draw between the two positions, organizations, and employers. Once you've selected your ideal candidate, ensure you provide them with a letter of offer and have a good orientation program in place to ensure that they get up to speed quickly and have a good start in their new position. I hope you found this video helpful and are now more confident about how to check references.